Hey there, Founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement of Autism Fitness. I think I said that in reverse. So, Eric Chessen, founder of Autism Fitness, leading the movement for movement. Yes. And in today's edition of Tuesday Training, I'm going to talk about a concept, but also a reality. And that is independence with respect to the autism and neurodivergent athlete and their ability to follow a program on their own. And this is a request that I've had from parents, or a question that I've had from parents over the 20 years that I've been doing this. And the question is, well, will they get to a point where they can be independent with this program or do it on their own, or something that they can do at home? And the way that we need to break this down is the way that we break everything down in Autism Fitness, and that's physical, adaptive, and cognitive. So we look at the movement itself, we look at the motivation and engagement, and then we look at the cognitive capabilities as far as understanding and communication, and then kinesthetic awareness. And then we put it all together in something that makes sense and is actually usable. That is the Autism Fitness methodology, and that's what you get in the Autism Fitness Level 1 certification, by the way. So when we're talking about, well, eventually can they be independent with this, we have to look at this generally, and then we have to look at it specifically. So the first question is, what do we mean by independent? Does it mean that they just take this program and they go to the gym or in home and run through this program? The fallacy is that anybody, neurodivergent or neurotypical, can just walk into a gym and know what they're doing simply by way of there being free weights and machines and equipment. The fallacy exists because there's a place where you can do this, so people automatically assume that they know how to train or they know how to program for themselves. And that is far, far, far from the truth. Imagine, and the analogy that I like to give is, you walk into a bank, and what does it do? Does it put more money in your account? Does it teach you how to budget? Does it teach you how to track your finances? Does it increase your portfolio value? No, it's just walking into a bank. The gym is the same way. So the fallacy exists because there's a misunderstanding of the complexities around good fitness programming. It doesn't just happen by accident. It's not just throwing together a bunch of different exercises. So just following along a template is fine if you actually can follow along that template. So that's the general. And I could speak about this for hours, but there's Tuesday Training, want to condense it. So think about it from that perspective, is that it's not an innate skill to put together an individualized fitness program and follow it, even for people who look like they know what they're doing. Walk into any commercial gym, most people don't know what they're doing. They might look like it, they don't. Optics, reality. That's why you have professional level coaches. I could go on and on about the fitness industry and the level of professionalism or the level of expertise. Again, that's a rant for a completely different time and place. Let's bring it back to the autism and neurodivergent population, right? So now let's break it down to the physical, adaptive, and cognitive, having that overarching theme there of programming is complex. So physically, does the athlete have the capability to do all of these exercises at their current level of ability and then progress? Because the purpose of training is to progress over time. It needs to be incrementally more challenging in order to derive a training effect or the benefit from training. That's another thing that's a part of training. If you go in and do the same thing over and over and over and over, and some aspect of it doesn't get more challenging over time, we're going to habituate. And then there's going to be no training effect. Again, training is not just something that happens. There needs to be a plan in place. Granted, many of our autism and neurodivergent athletes need physiologically and adaptively the same thing over and over and over for quite some time before they actually develop the skill. That's why we're working, that's the reason why programming for this population is so particular. And we need to know what we're doing and understand the programming and how it needs to be implemented for a particular individual. Again, this is not an automatic. So we need to know what those baseline skills are, and right, is that athlete capable of performing that exercise independently without there being significant mechanical breakdown or poor technique? An exercise done poorly repeatedly is not benefiting that individual. Instead, that exercise being performed poorly over and over again is probably creating a compensatory movement pattern, increasing the likelihood of dysfunction and injury. Again, not something that we want. So, yes, we want independence. And yes, we want the athlete to be able to own that aspect of their lives as far as fitness. However, coaching and having an expert level coach who understands what that athlete's needs are physiologically is an absolute necessity, especially when we know that the athlete is prone to technical breakdown in form. Form matters. It's not just the exercise itself. The exercise isn't magic. It's the way that's implemented. So now let's look at adaptive functioning and motivation. If the athlete is sufficiently motivated to do their in-home or their at the gym program, awesome. What if they're not? Again, we can't just hand them a template and say, here, go, this is your program, right? Are they motivated to maintain good form? Are they motivated to do all of the exercises in as much as they need to? Everybody has their days, and that's fine. But we need to consider that the adaptive and engagement. And then finally, we look at the cognitive. And the cognitive is being able to follow the directions or implement the program for themselves, and that kinesthetic awareness piece. Do they know what the movement feels like enough to know when it is a little bit off? And I'm not talking about like staring in a mirror. I'm talking about if you're doing a squat, can you feel the muscular contraction? Right? Do you know where your body is in relation to space? So even though much of the time the theme is we want our athlete to be independent and we want them to be able to take this exercise sheet or something on their phone and go to the gym or in-home do it themselves, are they actually going to do it? And are we setting them up for success to be able to do it as well? So it's not just a thing that happens. You don't just walk into the gym and get stronger, more stable, move better. You just don't go into the bank and gain wealth. There needs to be planning, there needs to be expertise, and there also needs to be a level of physical, adaptive, and cognitive functioning that the athlete attains where they are going to be independent enough to do some of this on their own. That's not to say that certain autism and neuroadaptive athletes can't be mostly independent with a program, but there's a reason that coaches in the fitness industry or in sports hire other coaches. The issue is accessibility. Fitness is fundamentally free and accessible. You can do push-ups in your living room, right? You can do jumping jacks, you can do bear walks, you can do. Are these good exercises to do simply because they're accessible? Depends. Does it make a program? No. Does there need to be more information there? Yes. So the question of whether or not the athlete can do this independently is loaded because we have to answer the most important questions, and that comes down to the physical, the adaptive, and the cognitive, and fill in the blanks from there. So there might be, the takeaways, there might be certain aspects of the program that they can do independently, but we still want coaching and structure along the way for the program to be viable, meaningful, and effective for them. Eric Chessen, founder of Autism Fitness, leading the movement for movement. And if you're ready now, Become an Autism Fitness Level 1 Pro. Link is below.